2 movies, 3 rounds, 1 winner. Welcome to the Movie Battle Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Movie Battle Podcast. I'm joined again by
Eamon.
And I'm Liam. And last week we had a kind of an all-out 80s affair, which was pretty one-sided, actually.
It was.
Did you envision that it would be that one-sided going into it?
I didn't. I mean, I knew what I thought. Well, I suppose I did, because I knew that Terminator was one of your favorite movies, and RoboCop is a movie that you like, but not one of your all-time, top 10 favorite movies of all time. So maybe I was surprised that I was more one-sided, because I really did enjoy RoboCop more than I had thought I would. Certainly, based on my presumptions previously, I enjoyed it a lot more. But I do think Terminator is a better film all around.
Yeah, I think we kind of hinted on last week how we kind of felt like it was RoboCop is a film that we think that going forward against a lot of other films we might do, it would win. So even though it lost,
it was a tough.
It could have been a winner in another day. But look, that was last week. That was the 80s, and this week we're actually jumping a bit further back in time, because we're going to have King Kong, the original from 1933. It was directed by Marion C. Cooper and Ernest B. Schoedsack. I'm not sure if I pronounced that properly, but I think he did like the stuff with the creatures.
He did all of the special effects work, as far as I can remember. All the rest was covering the live actors. The
Marion C. Cooper was on that side. Yeah. So it's King Kong 1933 against Godzilla from 1954, which was directed by Ishiro Honda. Again, it kind of felt like they made sense to go up against each other, kind of.
Yeah,
but like,
I mean, it's almost like a carryover from last week when I was saying I mentioned the fact that the idea for it came from the school ground debate: who would win, T-800 or RoboCop? And this is very much one I'd say kids have been doing since the 50s, since when Godzilla came out. Who would win, King Kong or Godzilla? I don't think we're going to go into the who would win a physical battle like we did last week in the super secret round. It may not have...
Yeah, you threw that on me. I wasn't expecting that.
So it will just be 3 rounds this week. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, because I think King Kong I hadn't seen in maybe 15 years, and with Godzilla I had never seen the original. I've seen the 98 version, but never the original. So I'm actually really curious to see your thoughts kind of on it and like how it goes, because I really don't know what way this one's going to go at all.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I saw King Kong, I think, as a child all the way through, but I've never seen it all the way through as an adult. I certainly have never watched it and enjoyed it as much as I did this one. Godzilla, like you, I had never seen before. I'd seen bits of other ones. I saw the 90s one. The Hollywood 90s one. I remember the animated show Godzilla and Godzuki, but I never saw the original Japanese film that started it all. And
we're going to talk about it.
So, round 1, music.
Do you want to start off, or?
Okay, well, King Kong, we always go chronologically. So King Kong, it was composed by Max Steiner. Now, listening to it, first of all, we started off with the overture, which I thought was a nice addition. I think you had mentioned that they have the overture in Ben-Hur as well?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so obviously that's a thing they used to do in cinema.
They even had an interlude with Ben-Hur.
Mm.
They have like a 5-minute interlude
Right.
in the middle of it.
That was obviously for bathroom breaks and that type of thing.
Yeah, but like on the Blu-ray they have my Blu-ray copy of it is cool that they keep that in there, so you really feel like it's.
No, yeah, I do like it because the version that we watched was the Criterion Collection, and they're sticklers for the original experience, warts and all. Not that I'm saying that the overture was warts, but you know what I mean. Like it was just the original experience people had when they sat into the cinema in '33. They tried to replicate that as much as possible, and it's very much appreciated by nerds like us. So I enjoyed the overture. I mean, after we're discussing it afterwards, you were saying that overtures are kind of were a thing. I've seen films from the 30s and 40s, and I don't remember seeing one before, so it took me by surprise. I enjoyed it. I thought it was an interesting kind of concept. Because when you go to the cinema now, they just kind of play random music, or it might just be some good cinemas will play like soundtracks, which is always good, but a lot of cinemas just play like crappy radio or something, and it doesn't add to it. This builds, it focuses your mind, it sets the scene.
It's prepping you basically.
It's like a trailer for the movie, but just audibly. So I really like that.
It was also good for getting ready your notes if you
yes, finding your pen.
Yeah.
But as we go further on into it, then when we start getting into the kind of nitty-gritty of the score, like the score has that, what I would describe, that classical Hollywood sound. Like what I think of when I think of a kind of golden age of Hollywood score.
Yeah.
But in my research, I learned that this was the first ever full score ever written solely for a film. Before this, every other score was taken from pre-recorded classical music and just overlaid. Yeah, so this is the first time a score was ever written for a movie, which I thought was fascinating. It also introduced loads of different concepts, having character traits, like leitmotifs, where you play a certain short piece of music to kind of accentuate a character or a moment, a scene that basically every film since uses.
Yeah,
this is the first film to do that.
Yeah, because it's actually, in fact, now that you said that it was the first film to have its own original score, because I guess that's why when I was watching it, I kind of felt like it was fine. It did the job, but it wasn't anything that stood out remarkably to me. But that's probably because I heard it in a lot of other films from around or close to that era. So maybe that was kind of unfortunate for watching it now, because I've seen a lot of other films of that time that kind of had similar music. So as I said, it was fine, but it didn't it didn't seem remarkable to me in any way for the most part. I thought the opening music was interesting though, because it moved between different kind of tones, kind of like it had a bit of a mystery there, a bit of sadness, a bit of intrigue. You kind of encapsulated a bit of everything that would happen in the film in the opening piece. But I thought as you got into the middle of it, and especially when they're on the island and the chase scenes and that, it felt kind of generic to me. It's fine, it worked, but it wasn't anything spectacular. That's kind of how I.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, and to be honest, I pretty much agree with everything you said. This is definitely. I mean, I mentioned it before in week 1 with Christopher Nolan or with Hans Zimmer and the score for The Dark Knight, and how since then that type of score has been used and overused, and it's become a little cliche. This is like that, but times 1,000. When you're the first movie to utilize a new style in 33, and now nearly 100 years later of films, it's going to be ripped off over and over and over again to the point where it's now cliche. So I think it is a victim of its own success. I like you, I thought, this sounds very generic. But it's very generic because it was so good when it came out. But like we established previously in previous weeks, we can only judge it based on our own experience. We can comment and appreciate its historical significance and innovation. But if it doesn't grab you, you can't pretend it does. I'm be honest, there were moments where I was grabbed, and in particular, I really liked the drums when they first
Yeah, when they're
pull up
arriving.
to the island. It's quite eerie, and one thing I really like that this film does is it combines the sound, the folio, the sounds that's going on in the film, so the drums that are doing, the chants that the tribe have, with the score intertwined, and it layers it really well, and it sets a mood. Especially with that mist as they roll up to Skull Island, it really kind of sets the mood that there's something epic and scary about to happen.
Yeah, I'd agree about I had that written myself actually about as they're approaching the island, that the kind of drum effect, and it kind of adds an extra kind of mystique about Kong himself, kind of, Do they actually refer to it as Skull Island in the film? I can't remember that.
I don't know. You could be right. They probably don't. It's one of those, again, because the character has been going for so long, and there's been so many iterations of it. Skull Island may not have been using it, and I've heard it picked it up from some other film or some other cartoon or book or something. But yeah, actually that's a great point. But I'm not sure if they ever actually refer to it as Skull Island.
There was actually a nice moment as well, interesting moment as well. Towards at the end of the film when he falls off the Empire State Building, obviously he's dead. But like, for all the mayhem he caused and stuff, it's music of sadness. There's a bittersweet kind of nature to it. Like, compare that to, say, the end of Jaws, for example, where you want Chief Brody to kill the shark. There's that they kind of angle it so that there's sympathy for Kong as well, and that was kind of interesting. Even though he's done all these really horrible things, killed people and destroyed, trains and buildings and stuff.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, you're right there. I do. There's more I want to say about that, but I think we'll get to it later in the action, or maybe in characters. I'm not sure. But I definitely I want to come back to that point. But for me, it's more kind of, it's less. The music, I feel, informs that, but there's something about that I would kind of go on to get into more about Kong and his motives. There's a couple other things I really did like, though. I liked when when he has Anne in the cave and the kind of snake-like lizard creature comes out, and it has this kind of slithery music plays, and I really like the fact that they customized each little piece for each action arc, for each little scene. Different creatures had different kind of music, and especially the snake like one stood out to me, and I enjoyed that. The other one was I did like the kind of plodding, rising tension as he climbed the Empire State Building. I thought the music kind of built well to that kind of crescendo.
Yeah, no, that was a cool effect as well. I actually didn't pick up on it as much, but now that you mention it, it came back to me. I hadn't noted it, but yeah.
Will we move on to Godzilla?
Yeah, and let's see anything else that
I feel like that kind of sums up. It very much is a victim of its success. I think that's clearly the case. When you do something so well that everybody rips you off, people get bored of what they hear all the time.
Yeah, I just to reiterate though that it wasn't bad. I didn't think the soundtrack was bad.
It just felt
it
generic.
Worked with it. It just did.
It just felt. It worked really well.
Yeah.
And isolated. I've listened to the score separately, although the only one I could find had the audio actually of the characters and action going on as well, which actually was quite interesting. And I listened to it while I was writing or doing other stuff. It was a fun way of getting back into the film and remembering and analyzing it.
You want to move on to Godzilla?
Yeah. Okay. So Godzilla, the score is composed by Akira Ifukube. God, like every week we have a composer's name. We're just like, oh.
There's going to be even some of the actors or characters.
Forgive us, please. If we mispronounce any names, it is not intentional. Okay, so for me, the score grabbed me straight away. It starts off like Godzilla's theme. This is kind of somber, slow music, which again kind of surprised me. This movie really surprised me, and like in every round, I'm like, "Whoa, okay, that's not what I was expecting." And the music is one definitely. It's Godzilla's theme is like somber, but then it's kind of like a driving, thumping, drum going. Drums feature a lot, but I mean this movie in King Kong, um, but yeah, this once I heard that, I was like, okay, I'm in. You got me.
I loved how in the opening music, how they accompanied it with the kind of the loud, thundering shrieks of Godzilla.
Yes.
It was like
Yeah,
instantly you were just.
I wasn't going to mention that because I felt like it was. I'm not sure if you count that as music or not.
But it was accompanied with the music.
Yes,
so.
it was definitely part of the score. You're right, and that shriek again. I might go into that later. I don't know, but
I was just touching on that in the opening. I was just touching on that.
yeah,
that
yeah.
I think was really a powerful way of helping to open the film.
Yes, yeah, I totally agree.
With regards to the main theme, though, it's in my head like all week. I just keep humming it. It has like kind of like there's real grandeur about it, kind of a little bit like the RoboCop theme, but then it's like kind of has that high stakes kind of riding effect to it as well, and it's really kind of just kind of this like it's coming to a head, kind of this big situation is coming to a head, but it's it just a really really cool main theme to the film that I thought was really really great.
I completely agree. It's been in my head as well. It's stuck in there. So as we kind of move on further in, because there's a lot of the kind of different kind of moments, it's kind of like very distinctive parts of music in this film. Like one of them, that I didn't like it. I didn't like as much. It was so different. Was the kind of the naval march that they play, this kind of upbeat kind of march they play as the naval ships go out to try and bomb Godzilla for the first time. And
it didn't kind of match.
It felt very like, oh, hey, we're all going on an adventure, almost Goonies-esque or something. Even though obviously it was very, very actually, traditionally military in its sound, and it very much captured that, but it didn't feel the weight of the situation wasn't captured.
Like tonally, it wasn't
yeah,
right.
No, maybe I thought maybe it's that they're ill prepared.
But there was even scenes like that, sometimes that they cut in that kind of just it didn't seem kind of flow naturally. There was a couple of just quick scenes that kind of just it felt abrupt, like
with the music.
Just in general as well, there was a couple of short scenes when they might be going into try and at sea when they were trying to destroy him. I think there was a couple of scenes I thought that.
Oh yeah, see that was stock footage.
Yeah, see
they didn't get the support of the official navy, so they had to just use stock footage from World War II. That's why it kind of looks a little maybe slightly erratic because they didn't direct that. It was just you can only use what you got. That's it. So yeah, that's fair enough. But maybe that's more action or.
Yeah, I just was touching on that because there was the other bits of music that were a bit sharing that didn't work.
But I have to go on then to the music after Godzilla destroys Tokyo. That music, as that pan across the city, the destroyed city of Tokyo, with that music, is absolutely haunting. I couldn't believe what I was watching. Well, up until that moment, I thought I was well. My preconceptions before going in was this is a B movie schlock, along the lines of, The Blob or something. Giant monster goes crazy in a city. Blah 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 blah. That's it. Mm-hmm. When I heard that music, I woke up and I was like, oh, whoa, this is different. That music is amazing.
I think, yeah, I would agree. I think the film very much surprised me, and I think I'll get into it a bit more when we get to the characters.
Yes, yeah.
But I agree, as a film, it definitely wasn't what I anticipated.
No.
It very much surprised me.
And like this, but just from a score perspective, that is not what I was expecting. And then we go into the Oxygen Destroyer music, which is quite crazy. That kind of weird screechy sound.
Which
moment? It's when we go to Sarazawa's lab, and Kenny's talking about the Oxygen Destroyer, or I can't remember. I think it's when he shows it to Emiko for the first time as well, maybe, or then afterwards. But it's because I've listened to the soundtrack a lot since we watched it pretty much every day. And the Oxygen Destroyer, it has a kind of psycho quality to it. Which, and this is what, 6-7 years before Psycho. What's Psycho? 60.
54, so 6 years. I think
Yeah,
Psycho was
60, wasn't it? Yeah, so 6 years. Yeah, but also a weight to it, kind of the suggesting kind of what it's capable of doing.
I thought the song.
That's I was just about to
with
get
the girls,
to, yeah.
the schoolgirls. I thought that was amazing, especially with the scene we had just seen.
Yeah.
And then to follow with that, I thought that was amazing.
I mean,
it was perfectly.
That is my favorite piece of the music in this film. The perfect piece, it literally has been stuck. I've listened to it. I'm not joking, about 40 times since we watched the film. I've played it on loop 4 or 5 times, several days. It really, really impacted me. I was saying earlier that the scene with Tokyo was like, whoa, oh my god, that piece of music, and part of why it hit me so much. I mean, obviously, besides the fact that it's amazing, and besides the fact that this is in a film that was released, less than a decade after the Hiroshima and the bomb in Nagasaki. I was over in Miami a few years ago, and I went to the Holocaust Memorial Museum. It's not a museum; it's more this giant sculpture. Anyway, part of the piece is when you walk into the inside area, and you can see all the names of all the people who died during World War II in the concentration camps. As you're walking in, there's this little tunnel, and there's this song playing, and it's these children singing this like really sad song in this echoey hallway, and like just so powerful, and it very much took me straight back to that, and I felt the weight of a people, like I can't imagine what Japan was like after those bombs were dropped. But I really felt like I kind of came closer to understanding what the effect it had on the country. It was stunning music and stunning singing. It was.
I guess it's fair to say that was your favorite aspect of the soundtrack.
Yeah, absolutely blew me away.
Actually, the moment that surprised me the most, in terms of the music, was the final scene where Serizawa and Ogata, they descended into the water to strike Godzilla. And what was interesting was that the music, so this is like the final battle per se, the music was very solemn and bittersweet.
Yeah.
And it actually reminded me a bit of the music you hear in the Truman Show. Just was a really nice kind of gentle quality about it. But the other interesting thing is that, like, to me, that scene is not about destroying Godzilla. It's about Serizawa and what he's doing, what he's sacrificing, what he has to do in using this thing. And I thought it was interesting that for like what we kind of thought we were going to see is like just a straight out kind of monster action kind of movie. In the final scene, it's just about this character and what the consequences of doing this mean to him and what he sacrifices. And I thought that was very powerful, that as the music chose to go that way, as well as the scene itself chose to go that way, and not be about the action and more so about the character and what he's doing.
Yeah, that struck me as well. It's the same music they used when they're panning over the destroyed Tokyo. It's the same music. And
was it the same music?
Yeah, because I was listening to it about half an hour ago, and I was like, that music, I love that music as well. And I was like, whoa, that's the same music. And then I was thinking, whoa, okay, so if they're reusing the same music from destroyed Tokyo, I mean, it was clearly, this is about the atomic bombs.
Yeah.
If they were using the same music to show Tokyo destroyed as when Godzilla dies, I mean, they're connecting the scenes. So is the death of Godzilla also tragic? Because again, we're kind of going into more story, but I feel like we have to here because it's so important. But like, so is he just he's just an animal lashing out after an atomic bomb. Like, he's not caused by the bomb. He's been attacked by the bomb going off in the atomic bomb test going off in the Pacific Ocean. That's what wakes him. With the very real atomic bomb tests that were going on in the Pacific Ocean. And so is he retaliating?
It's misfortune, of kind of circumstances.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking when they were used that music, is Godzilla the Japanese people? Maybe some people in Japan after World War II wanted to go on a rampage. Maybe they wanted to get revenge. Maybe they wanted to fight back after being blown to bits. I'm not saying that's how they all felt, but I wonder if this film is like an exercise in Japan discussing and analyzing who they are now after, as a people, as a country, after, a generational event. I mean, an unbelievable event.
We're only one round in, getting quite deep.
That's what the music did for me. The music took me there. And even Godzilla's themes, the drums sound like bombs. It all goes back to bombs.
Yeah, there was like clearly an allegory for war. Film, definitely.
Okay, so I think we're ready to vote.
Yeah.
And I think there's no shocks coming up here. But Liam, what did you vote for?
For music, I voted for Godzilla.
I also voted for Godzilla. What a shock.
I think, like, for me, it's like there's 3 or 4 kind of distinct aspects of the soundtrack that really stood out, and I don't think King Kong had that in its soundtrack. I think that's kind of the difference.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'd be honest, I think Godzilla's soundtrack is now one of my favorite soundtracks I've ever heard. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's a brilliant soundtrack.
It wasn't, to be honest, there was no chance King Kong was even going to be in the same league, to be honest. Okay, so let's move on to the next round, shall we?
Yep.
Round 2. Action and special effects. This is one I think King Kong will come to the fore a little bit more. First thing, just kind of, it's like almost like a lack of action. But I love the fact that when they waited to introduce King Kong.
I agree. It reminded me of how they wait
for Jaws.
Or even and as well, even in Jurassic Park, they wait a while to show I know they showed the Stegosaurus or the Brontosaurus or the Brachiosaurus. Early on, but seeing with the T-Rex was like just halfway through the film, so they wait. And I was actually pleasantly surprised to see they did the same with King Kong, that they wait a while before you introduce him. But there's the whole mystique about him. They're just kind of, you're waiting for that thing to happen, and it's kind of that build, which I think always worked well. I like films that kind of have a slow build like that sometimes,
Yeah.
It does work.
I think pretty much every good action film that I've seen don't shoot their load straight away. They allow a build. Rising tension is way better than just going blah and throwing everything at you straight away. So I really enjoyed the fact that they didn't. And apparently, actually, it was quite funny is that the producers were pushing and pushing and pushing for Kong to be introduced sooner and sooner, but the directors are fighting, no, this will build the tension better. If we introduce and build him up slowly, the reveal will be so much more worth it.
Yeah,
which is basically
definitely right with that.
Yeah. But this is also, we're talking about revolutionary. I mean, this film, it's amazing how important this film is historically. So earlier we were saying this is the first time a score was composed for a film. This is the first time claymation effects were used in a film. And it wasn't just claymation, it was claymation that was done to a ridiculous level. Like, I mean, I'm into my art and I like studying special effects. When we do movies, I'm kind of more the technical side of things. And it just blew my mind. Like, I couldn't believe what I was watching at times, to be honest.
And like, there are moments where you can tell, it looks fake, but the film had enough going for it that you overlook those moments. And I'm not saying there was a lot that looked great, but those little moments where you can tell it's fake. As I said, the film had a lot going for it that you accept it because you're in the story. If it was like a terrible film they'd stand out a lot more to you.
Yeah, but what I always say is, I was involved. Like, if you notice the special effects, usually that means it's because they're not good. And, and especially if you're taken out of it, when you go, oh, that's clearly just a ball of clay moving around there, then it's not good. And it very rarely was I taken out of it. In particular, in the insane action sequence after action sequence after action sequence that we had in the jungle. That was breakneck speed. So but also just before we get there, I love the set design. Of the tribe,
big massive,
the village,
the big massive gate
the
kind
walls,
of thing,
the gate, everything.
and that latch when they open the latch, they go close up of the latch. How big
it's
that
so
is.
clear that Jurassic Park was influenced by
Completely.
King Kong. There,
But even that line where Jeff Goldblum says, "What have they got in there in King Kong?" when they go through the gate.
I forgot that actually. Yeah, but you did right. I also like, just again before we get into the jungle stuff, when Anne has been kidnapped by the tribespeople and they're obviously setting her up to go and be sacrificed. I love the fact that it didn't subtitle anything they were saying.
Yeah.
Because it put us in her shoes. She doesn't know what they're saying. She doesn't know what they're trying to do or what they're going to do. How bad is she at risk? How much of a danger is she in? And she's panicking. She doesn't know what's going on. And we feel that from her perspective. I feel and that's not really action, but it was just it built the tension in the scene.
Even there was a moment I liked was when you first see the Stegosaurus and the crew are kind of in the foreground.
Yeah.
And you see the Stegosaurus in the distance, and initially it doesn't see them.
Yeah.
And it walks out, and then it kind of turns back. And what I liked was because they're in the foreground, you felt like you were one of the group members with them looking on.
Yeah.
So it made it like that bit more creepy kind of and scary, that when it looks back then, it's like you were in their shoes almost, in a way, which I thought was a really cool shot.
The only thing about that one that I didn't like is that they seem quite I wouldn't say underwhelmed. Like, they don't react at all. Like, they're seeing an actual dinosaur.
I had that down for when it's killed, or one of the dinosaurs is killed, and I think it's Denham and the skipper just walk beside it like it's nothing.
Yeah, but also
you would be in. Yes, I'm saying you would be a lot.
Like that first sighting. Again, we're comparing it to Jurassic Park a lot, but remember that scene? Obviously, you remember that scene in Jurassic Park where Ellie and Alan see the Brachiosaurus for the first time, and just the sheer scale and the awe, and he's almost getting sick, like he's going to faint. And compare that to this, they're like, oh yeah, there's a prehistoric creature that we assumed was dead, 64 million years. Anyway, let's kill it, which they do with one shot. I know he's still alive, when they go past, and I like the fact that he's still kind of kicking, but it seemed a bit too easy. He would just go down with one shot. You know what I mean? I thought that the first battle would be, a big tense affair, and then maybe they can kind of start getting the upper hand, but just kill it straight away.
There was a great scene where they're because there's kind of a fog effect when they make that raft, and there's an initial shot of the dinosaur coming out of the water. You just kind of see it breaking the surface, the head, which I thought was very creepy.
Yeah,
very disturbing.
Mist is so great because things coming out of the mist is a shock.
But just the way they bring it out of the water, just slightly the head coming out, I thought it looked very disturbing.
Yeah, it was great. I love that scene as well. And then when he comes out and he chases the guy up the tree, his screams gave me chills. His death rattle was just oh my god, that just sounds gruesome.
It was proper kind of, monster scenario moments, like even when I think it's Driscoll is hiding under and Kong's trying to grab him with the hand. I just felt like that old school kind of hiding from the monster kind of thing, just really kind of just as a child kind of stuff you associate with being attacked by a monster. It just felt like that kind of an old kind of nightmare from your childhood.
Yeah, definitely. And every set piece is different. There's the Stegosaurus first, and then we're crossing the raft with the Brachiosaurus, and then we go on, and Kong is throwing the guys off of the log. That scene,
and you see how far they fall and the impact.
Oh my god!
That actually, that was you really felt just just a brutal way to go.
You really feel the weight of the violence and the weight of the impact of what's going on there.
Of course, when they fall, I didn't notice until I think yesterday. I found that there's think it's a lost scene. It's called like the spider tunnel or something. But there's like spiders, crabs, lizards. When those guys fall down, they're all eaten by these things. And apparently, like they said, that it was just so gruesome and terrifying that they couldn't include it and they had to cut it out.
Yeah, I saw it as well. I saw it just this evening actually, and I can see why it was. Obviously I'd prefer if it was kept in, um, but it was very gruesome.
Because you do actually see a lizard does come up at one point when O'Driscoll's hiding from Kong, and O'Driscoll cuts the rope.
Yeah.
So I think that's where that lizard came from.
Yeah, that
They
makes
just had a
sense.
little bit left
But
in.
but even to be honest, even with that scene cut, it flowed so well there. Like it didn't. You didn't feel the film was lacking because of it. I don't think that you.
The only thing I had a small quibble with that whole chasing sequence was there was a lot of it was like characters that I didn't really know that well that were being chased, so you hadn't kind of grown attached to them, so you were like, well, who's this guy now that's being killed? You know, it was kind of, they weren't distinct characters, you know. But I think it was more about just seeing the dinosaurs and seeing them. So you know.
And again, it is important to remember the context of like this is the first time people have seen anything like this ever. You know, nobody has gone to the cinema and sat down and seen anything like this. Like I cannot imagine what it must have felt like to be an audience member in 1933, sitting down to watch this for the first time. I mean. No, I mean, I don't think I've ever had a cinema going experience where something that revolutionary just kind of took place. I mean, even Jurassic Park, when it was kind of like the first film to really do CGI properly, I don't think it was the same weight. Like, we had seen stuff that was still amazing, but this is like you're going from, you know, I don't know what kind of level of special effects. But this is like, this is it. Like, I mean, you know, there's nothing like this. It must have been quite incredible.
But what is cool is that like today it still works. Like,
oh my
you can
god!
watch it and you can still go, this looks
like
really
after
cool.
that, after Driscoll is escaping in the cave, you know, Godzilla's reaching for him. Then we go straight into the T-Rex fight, and like the T-Rex fight was like a knockdown drag out fight. You know, it was two guys fighting in an alley.
I thought, yeah, I there was aspects that I liked, but I thought it got a little comical when he like climbed up on his shoulders. I thought it was a bit.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you know, like, look, it's not realistic, but I actually really enjoyed it, and there was elements of it technically that were just so brilliant. Like there's one bit, like I love it when little details are paid attention to, and one of them was so during the course of the fight, you know, because so obviously we're looking at miniature, you know, stop motion clay being moved around, and in the foreground you have Anne, who's in an actual real tree trunk, and that's filmed, you know, on a set, and then there's, you know, probably the screen's projected. She's acting in front of a screen of the film of them fighting. But there's a part of that scene where the T-Rex's tail whips across, and then the tree trunk, as it grazes where it should be, where the tree trunk should be, the tree trunk shakes and moves, as if his tail whipped the tree and moved it. And I was like, oh my god. I mean, you didn't need to do that, but they did. And just those subtle little things. And you didn't notice it. I mean, most people might notice it. I mean, maybe if I watched it other times, I mightn't have noticed it. But I just happened to, you know, studying it closely. And I was like, that is how you do, you know, that's how you mix two different imagery together. You make them interact. It's the hardest thing to do, and I did it so well. Did get it later as well. But
what was cool, actually, I just noticed a little thing was so when the T-Rex first emerges, it kind of like scratches its like neck with its arm, and in the Lost World, when the T-Rex is in the city going around the houses, it does the exact same thing. It kind of when it's arm, it kind of scratches its neck or kind of chest area, and I was like, oh, so that's where that came from. So again, I was like, oh.
Yeah, no, I thought the actual acting of the dinosaurs, so really we're talking about the animators, the acting on display was fantastic. I love the fact that like after Kong snaps the T-Rex's, you know, mouth open, he's checking it a couple of times to see if it's still dead, like he's not sure. Subtle little details like that, like really, I'm saying humanistic, but you know, obviously, like he's a real creature thinking and analyzing and checking. He's not sure if it's dead or not. He's making sure.
What was interesting was you see the kind of difference between how the natives kind of engage with Kong and how like Denham wants to present Kong. So the natives kind of worship him, they have these kind of rituals. Denham wants him just chained up on display. Look, just observe, whereas they kind of have a different appreciation for him, which I thought was interesting to kind of see the parallels.
Yeah, definitely. There's a dichotomy there. And maybe more for the characters, though, would that be? Or,
I don't know, just to throw it in.
Yeah.
But one thing I didn't understand was when they get onto the ship and take Anne, like, how would they know where to go, and how would no one have noticed that? That was one thing I kind of found strange.
I mean, like, this film is not like the most, it's not a Scorsese film. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty straightforward, and we'll get into this later. I think in the characters probably, but it's not like the most dense in story.
I was just curious. I was wondering how that was.
To be honest,
it's not massive. I didn't dwell on it for the whole film. I just was like,
the bigger question is, how do they get Kong onto the ship? And how do they get him into the building
without no one noticing?
Yeah, but even just like, what doorway is he going to fit through?
It was like smashed down.
Like, he can smash through the wall. He smashes through the wall when he's coming out, but like, what doorway is he fitting through?
Actually, Joe, like when he does break out, like, and he gets loose in the city, when he destroys the train, and you see, like, you smashed it down, and you see all the people like falling on top of each other. I thought that was quite harrowing. Like, it's like, what a way to go! Like, just literally being crushed to death.
Yeah, no,
some of them not even by the fall, just by others falling on them.
Also, I thought it was definitely, and I thought it was a nice moment as well. Like, when he reaches in the window and he grabs the woman and he thinks it's Anne and it's not, and he just dumps her on the ground.
That was just casual, just like,
oh my god, yeah.
No thoughts about it, just let it go.
But I think one of those scenes are to emphasize, one, that he's just an animal. Like, as in, I don't mean that in like, oh my god, he's like just an animal. As in, like, he is a wild beast. He's. I mean, what would happen if you took a gorilla, a regular sized gorilla, and set it loose in New York? It's going to cause havoc. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't understand, like, that's rude. You don't kill people. You don't dump them out of windows, crush trains. They just do to react. They're just instinctive. And I think that those scenes for me emphasize that which is what you mentioned earlier about the music. He is a victim of Denham, in particular. He's just an animal living in a jungle.
Forced into this environment.
And then he's getting captured, he's brought to New York, put on show.
Teased, basically, because they bring Anne out
with the lights. They mentioned earlier about Denham should have known with the lights.
We'll get into him a little later.
Yeah, and just, I mean, he is it's a tragedy. And but what's interesting, actually, I went to it later, actually, with Denham, but one thing again of note, like, when the press come along, they're like, oh yeah, there's a giant ape. Like, no one is surprised. Nobody is like, what? Oh my god! Like, geez, he's slightly bigger than regular apes, isn't he? Nope, no one.
What did you think of the fall? I thought it looked great, but it kind of, the fact that he bounced off like parts of the building, it was just like,
there's almost an element of humor to it.
Yeah, it was almost like kind of like this grandeur
I think it's,
figure just falling from grace.
Well, I think that's it. Like, he is a god, and he, at the end, he's just a sad animal.
Yeah, he's just like reduced to this like.
I think it adds to the tragedy of it. Well, just one thing, just briefly, before we move on. One shot I really didn't like, or one kind of shots that I didn't like, was the close-ups of his face. Yeah, when they show his face in real close-up and he's like chewing people, it looked so fake. It looked so bad. And they were the moments that took me out of it. I'm like, could you not? It looks terrible there. And there's no need to do it.
The close-up of the hands looked great, though, I thought.
Oh.
And when he crushes them crushes people.
With the foot, looked fantastic.
They looked great.
There was one other thing. I was two things. One, I hated, and one that I loved. So one that I hated was when the people were in claymation. They looked terrible. I mean, they honestly looked like a child's attempt at animating people. I don't understand how they could be so amazing animating. I wonder if it's just budgetary reasons, time, just didn't have time to animate the people properly, but they looked so bad. I mean, I think a doll would look better in the hand. Something, just be static. But it was just a pile of mala for want of it's like Play-Doh for anybody who's not Irish. But one scene that I loved, and again it goes back to what I was saying earlier about the mixing the miniature work with the live action work, and it's a scene where he's disrobing Anne.
Yeah.
And you've got the giant hand that she's sitting in, which is a real hand, and then you have the miniature who's reaching over and taking off her clothes. So he's reaching over to her, the miniature is, taking off her clothes come off in the live action, and then the miniature is grabbing them and dropping them. And it's seamless. And I don't fully understand how they're able to do that so well at the time, on a first attempt. This is the first time a movie has done this. I was in awe of how well that looked. Because I had to kind of catch myself. I was like, oh, that looks good. And then I was like, oh my God, I can't believe what they're actually doing here. They're mixing two different shots and interacting. It's so hard to do, and it was done so well. But
I want to move on to Godzilla's action and special effects.
Yes. Okay. So, do you want to start on Godzilla?
Yeah. I thought I'm going to start with the first thing I noticed. No, the first thing I noticed when the first shot of him I did really like when they show him over the mountain. You kind of see a bit of the head. But I thought the eyes looked really, really bad. Like, really bad.
I get to that later. But there's a shot where he's destroying Tokyo. And it's just after he set the buildings ablaze. And I think the fire engines are coming in. And he just looks at the camera. And he looks almost cross-eyed or something. Like, he looks like a terrible puppet. I mean, I'll be honest. I laughed. I laughed out loud. I don't know if you remember, but I laughed. When I saw that, I was like, and then following that was the fire engines, the miniatures and the fire engines. I laughed at that as well. I was like, oh my God, this is absolutely ridiculous.
They're glowing though on the scales. In fact, that was a cool shot. I did like that. I just couldn't get over the eyes.
Let's just go back to just maybe kind of the start of it. So you're saying you liked him in the intro.
Yeah, I liked that they shot a shot over the mountain with just the head.
You spoke earlier about his roar. His roar is one of the I think it's the most distinctive and best monster movie roar I've ever heard. It sounded like a rusty lion's roar mixed with a motorbike. I've never had anything like it before. Nothing even similar. The T-Rex or King Kong. I know obviously that he's a fictional character, so there's more leeway to kind of go in different areas. But I was just so distinctive. Like, you would never mistake that for any other roar, any other creature. Like, that is Godzilla, and it is. I mean, it grabs you straight away. Like, it sets the mood. So yeah, I love that roar that he has.
I had it more in the character section, but
okay,
I get into it now that you mentioned it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the roar is like just thunderous and terrifying.
Yeah.
But it's a real satisfying kind of terror that you feel
yes,
when you hear it.
Yeah, I mean, action films are like that. When you see something amazing, even if it's awful happening, you're in awe of it.
Yeah, to me, like, it reminded me of the same feeling I got when I hear the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. It just does something about that screeching sound that's just really impactful, and you just kind of sit, you kind of perk up to attention at hearing it. It just grabs you instantly.
Yeah.
It was really, every time he made that sound, you were just engrossed. But yeah, in terms of like the action kind of scenes in general, I thought, like, I'd be honest, like, the other scene where he destroys the city. Yeah. I thought, like, it just kept going on. It went on for way too long, and I thought it kind of just, like, became really repetitive. It felt like shots were just repeating. There was a nice little bit though where the kind of clock tower starts kind of chiming, and he kind of just bites on it. I thought that was, because it was something different. I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah. But I thought there was a lot of shots in it where it was just like, this is just getting kind of redundant and kind of I have enough of it. But after he's done destroying the city, you notice that he's just walking around and he's not making a sound. It's kind of like that. After all this horrendous stuff, is kind of the calmness that followed. I thought that was really, really well done.
Yeah.
So I was much more into the aftermath of it and just seeing him walking around after he had destroyed everything. But I thought a lot of the destruction of the city, I thought it could have been reduced by about 5 or 6 minutes. I just thought it went on way too long.
Yeah, I think I agree with pretty much everything you said. Like, just before I want to go into the city stuff, I'll just mention a couple of things I did like. Yeah, so Godzilla's suit, I think from a distance, actually looks pretty good. I mean, again, one thing we have to remember as well: the budget for this was way lower than King Kong's was back in the day, and they also had only 14 people on staff, and most of them had never done animation before. So, because the special effects, I can't remember his name now, but the guy who was doing special effects, he wanted to do it in claymation, the same style as King Kong, but he realized that it would take him 7 years to do all the work for it, so he couldn't do it. So they had to go with the rubber suit. So I mean, we have to kind of give them kind of a little leeway for budgetary reasons. You know, they're not a big Hollywood producer. But like we established, we can only judge it on what we see on the screen. But again, just before I go into the bad things, I did think from a distance I thought it looked good, and I thought when he first comes out of the water and he attacks a train, I don't think it's Tokyo. I think it's a different city or a different part of the city. I'm not sure, but when he attacks that, I actually really liked that scene. I think darkness suited, and I think it's very much reminded me of the T-Rex paddock scene in Jurassic Park, where he comes out. He's in darkness. He's in shadow. They're hiding, it seems, literally and figuratively. And he looks, menacing. And it's a scene that really worked, compared to the grand Tokyo scene. That did not work at all. I agree with you. I got bored. I kept thinking, because we just watched King Kong. I'm not sure if it was a day or 2 days or whatever it was before. I kept thinking back to every King Kong's action scene looked different and felt different, and there was a different pace or energy or a different type of fight or something. And this, it just, like you were saying, just felt samey, just over and over and over again. I just go, okay, all right. And then, but you know what was weird? The fact that I kind of got out, it kind of took me out of the movie. When they then do the aftermath shot with that music, it actually was more impactful, because I was really not like that. Was just like, oh my god, going back to the music, but I think I may like the music for this film.
I think less is more would have been good.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when it looks like that.
Yeah, and because there's a scene after the attack as well, a little bit after that, where there's a little girl who's crying when her mother's been taken away, and you see, like, for me, it was more the consequences of Godzilla's actions were far more impactful than seeing Godzilla, create and do out the destruction that he was doing. It was seeing how it was affecting people. That to me was a lot more interesting. And was really the heart of the film.
I agree entirely. Yeah,
I'm
gonna go into that a little bit more in the characters.
Yeah,
but that's fine to bring it up here. I mean,
I did like the shot though with because it might have been a nod to King Kong, where again with the train track, and it's like timing is always terrible during these major attacks for people in trains, or training King Kong, training Godzilla, where he crushes it, and then I remember in The Lost World as well, there's that bus scene, and it's like, just happens to be a T-Rex attacking, or Godzilla attacking, or a giant ape attacking, and just happens to be a train or a bus coming at the wrong place at the wrong time, and just gets destroyed.
Those poor guys. Yeah, no, and it's funny you say it, because as a nod to King Kong, because originally, I think, I'm not sure at which order, but they were considering a gorilla, and they were also considering a squid, I think it was, as well. And the name Gojira, which is Godzilla in the original Japanese, it comes from the two words for gorilla and whale. It combines those two words. So I think there's definitely, obviously, a huge influence from King Kong on this film. I mean, I mean, the fact then that soon after this, they did King Kong versus Godzilla. The Toho studios did.
There was one thing I was just curious about. Again, it's a minor thing, but it's like, why were they having like a dance thing on a ship in the ocean, obviously, when all this stuff was happening? Like, why would you go into the ocean when all these attacks have happened and you know that he's like dwelling in the water? Why would you be having a dance? Do you remember during like maybe just coming to the halfway point of the film, maybe a little earlier?
Because I'm an idiot. Happy?
Who would go on that? And then also there's I can't remember the character. What was the character's name? Shinichi or Shiniki, I'm not sure. I think he might be the brother of a guy.
Oh, the kid guy.
He runs out while there's an attack. Early in the film, there's an attack happening. He runs out of the house. There's these big winds howling. You know he's coming, and it's like, why are you running out? And then like,
it was strange. Yeah. Some people did act odd in this film, and we'll get into that in characters.
Oh, speaking of acting odd, I have to throw in the tower scene where the guy's reporting and he's like, oh, well, it looks like we're done for now. I don't think we're going to survive this. He's up here in the tower.
Yeah.
And it's like...
We burst out laughing when we said that.
Just like reporting. It's like a comedy.
Yeah, it just so did not fit into the film at all. The tone of that scene was just such at odds with the weight of what they were talking about and, referencing to... Yeah, really, really bizarre. Also, another thing that I thought was quite silly was that they erected an electric fence, like, all around Tokyo Bay. I don't know. I mean, maybe the entire length of Japan? I don't know. In what, like a day or two? I mean, they've been laying tarmac down the end of our road for the last 6 weeks. Did you get those boys over to do them?
I think with that we'll pick.
Yeah.
Which one we're going for in this category? If you want to go, go first.
I'll go first this time. So for me, it's not even close. Like the music, it's not even close. King Kong takes this all the way.
For me, it's 100% without doubt. King Kong is trumps Godzilla when it comes to the action and special effects. I think it was never in doubt, really.
Yeah, not a chance. Okay, so moving on to the final and decisive round of round 3, characters.
A lot different to last week, where like we kind of already knew it was like done and dusted.
Yeah.
This is going to be
it's neck and neck again.
It's going to be an interesting final round, just a penalty shootout. Okay,
so I'll start. I'm not sure how many characters you have down, but I'm just gonna go and then.
Yeah, I think just throw out who you want to talk about.
Okay, so I'll start with Denim.
Okay.
So we're in King Kong, obviously.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'll be honest. Overall, actually, I'll just start overall on King Kong. The characters, I mean, are basically non-existent. I mean, there's barely a character in the film.
They're awful people.
But not just awful people, they're awful characters. As in, like, they're so bare bones. Like Denim is... Okay, I mean, actually, Denim is the only one that actually has something to him in that he's slightly interesting. So, like, he is this mad artist who's, like, he's willing to go to the ends of the earth, literally, to get, like, his next, big motion picture, and he'll risk anybody's life. I mean, clearly, and he's also like a control freak. So like he does all the filming himself. Like because the last camera operator he had ran away. I can't remember what he said, was running towards him, a lion or something. And so that's why he takes over, because everyone else is a coward when it comes to it.
Well, they say early in the film that like he has a reputation for being reckless, and I think he certainly lives up to that.
Yeah, you could say that again. But he is also brave. Like he's very brave. I mean, he's willing to help Driscoll. Remember, like when Driscoll and him get separated, and he's like, I can't help you, but I'll try and make it over. And he's like, no, go and get the others and get the bombs. So like even though he's reckless, and then he also uses the bombs to take out King Kong. Like he's the guy who steps up and does it. Everybody else is dying, running.
But I think as well he's like, there's not a lot. He doesn't show a lot of sympathy for those who died on the quest, because like he speaks up about like, the 8th wonder of the world, and he's like, saying, it was this crazy thing, but he's almost he's selling it off of the fact that a lot of his crew were killed, and he doesn't seem to care about that. And he even says as well, at one point, he's like, "Oh, I think we've got something that he wants." So he's playing off the whole thing of him going after Anne.
And even when they've just gotten out of
like
the
a game
gate,
to him.
he's like, "Oh, we can use Anne as bait." Like,
Because I remember when Simpsons were the Halloween episode, Marge is
Yes.
like obviously supposed to be Anne. He's like,
Yeah.
he's like, "Am I coming too?" Of course, he wouldn't go without the bait. That was the baiting beauty. I covered that pretty well. It was like that's literally what he was doing.
yeah,
like, you know.
yeah. There's no subtlety. There's no subtlety at all. But I said he's brave, but he's brave only for personal gain.
Like he's always playing for the headlines. Like even at the end when Kong dies, you know, he's like, "No, it was beauty killed the beast." You know, always coming up with these lines and these things to sell a story.
Yeah.
Well,
One thing I did like though, actually no, I thought I'd go into it now. I was going to do it in Driscoll, but sure, what does it matter? Is that he lays out the entire film earlier. You remember when he comes along and Driscoll's talking to Anne, and he spots him and he starts talking about Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
And he compares Driscoll to the Beast, and he goes, "Oh yeah, like the Beast, it goes soft and then is killed by the little people."
Yeah,
which is
that's
exactly what happens to Kong. He goes soft when he sees the girl and is killed by the little people. So I like that. I thought that was a nice little kind of setup. But anything else to add on Denham?
I don't think so. I think he was the most interesting character though, aside from Kong.
Yeah.
Of the humans, I think he was the most interesting.
We're going to Anne Driscoll.
Yeah.
Okay, Anne. Anne down on her luck. I mean, basically, I'm just describing the story now because she doesn't have a character.
Yeah.
She's down on her luck and homeless. She's eager and enthusiastic. She's the archetype damsel. Yeah, Beauty and the Beast.
Some of the stuff that is said to her though. By
Driscoll. We'll Driscoll. We'll leave
that for Driscoll.
Yeah, we'll get to Driscoll in a second.
It's like I was stunned. Yeah. We'll stay with her for the moment though.
Yeah. Well, be honest. That's me done on Anne.
Okay. Well. Well, I think. Okay. Well, I guess there's a parallel in a way between her and Kong in that she's kind of living on the street almost when Denham kind of finds her.
Yeah, because she seems way more interested. Sorry, I'm good. Go on. Sorry.
No, I'm just saying that. He brings her to the island, and she's like, and she comes into this whole situation. So it's a different environment for her, and then similarly, how Kong is brought back to New York, and he's in this situation. The only thing is that she kind of seeks it out. She wants it, where Kong doesn't, and yet it's Kong who ultimately, perishes. But she doesn't, although I don't think she'll ever be the same again after going through that.
But she doesn't seem that worried. Like when she's there standing in front of him, and she's like, "Oh yeah, standing for the pictures, wave."
I was going to get to that. I don't know. Like she's an idiot, obviously. Like, why would you want to go back near him after being like that whole scenario on the island? Why would you come back? I mean, it was a pretty stupid thing to do to come back into that. Like, why would you do that?
Nobody in this film acts like a real person. There are no real characters in this film. I mean, they're just avenues to move the story along. Like, I mean, we set up this love story between Anne and Driscoll, and then it's like, okay, I mean, I know he saves her, but like, without the love angle, he'd still save her. I mean, like, she's a woman who's... Okay, let's go on to Driscoll.
Yeah.
So he is like the most openly misogynistic character I think I've ever seen in a film. I mean,
some of the dialogue was like, "You don't like women, do you?" or something. No.
No, I think but she says, "But you hate women."
Oh, he says, "I love you," out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Yeah, but you hate women."
Yeah.
I know.
Like not like, "Oh, you're stretching it," or no. But you hate. Yes, I do. I hate every woman except for you. Consider yourself lucky.
Or like she's like, she's like, "You don't think much of women on ships," and he's like, "No, not really." And then, "I'll try not get in the way then, you have already," stuff like this.
Her introduction is him literally punching her in the face. She walks into the ship and she punches him in the face. He punches her in the face. Sure, he even says, "I didn't even apologize for hitting you, did I?"
And then it
was by a mistake, but like still, that's her introduction is literally a fist into the jaw.
But then I was like, how the hell would she fall in love with him? And then I was like, okay, at least then he saves her. So I guess that might be a reason why she might. But
it's the damsel.
But
I'll be honest.
there was nothing really.
It's crap. in the characters are crap in this film. He's the hero, so he saves the girl. So we accept that he's a terrible person and she is an idiot, and like we're supposed to care when really I care about the next character. Kong.
Yeah, and I'll just from Kong or from Driscoll to Kong, I'll say that Driscoll to me represents one of many kind of obstacles that Kong has to kind of face to kind of claim Anne as his own. Because I feel like all the dinosaurs that Kong comes up against are almost represent like kind of a threat to his position.
Yeah.
With Anne, even though obviously they just
they're trying to eat Anne.
Yeah, that's the point I'm making. But
yeah.
in a way, like it's like almost like a metaphor for like it's like Kong has to face all these obstacles to keep her as his. You know, killing the snake, killing the T-Rex, killing the pterodactyl. But then like it's actually they're saying about it's the little people that are bringing him down. It's actually Driscoll who manages to get her away from him, and it's people at the end of the day that actually kill him. You know?
Yes.
So in a way, you know, that's sort of kind of
Yeah, and we touched on earlier, you know, the whole I was talking about when he's going on the rampage. Like he's just an animal. He's just an animal that was living his life, just doing his thing, eating the sacrifices the villagers gave them. But it's not his fault. Like they gave them to him.
But even then, like the fact that like the Empire State Building is a man-made object or building, and like that kind of is his last stand, and he couldn't. It was like his Everest that he couldn't get over. You know.
Yeah. One thing I'm unsure of is, was he supposed to be tragic originally? I mean, I know to us in 21st century, certainly I'd say late 20th century, he clearly is tragic, and the music does kind of evoke it. So maybe it is, but I often kind of think of like Shylock in Merchant of Venice, where like he is this antagonist, and we're all supposed to boo him. But like when I read it and what they say to him, I can't help but be on his side.
Mm-hmm.
It felt kind of like that kind of relationship where we're like, oh, look at this terrible monster eating all these people. I'm like, no, look at this poor animal that's been captured against its will and taken and stuck in the middle of a city where it doesn't belong. And then it breaks loose, like of course it's going to do. And then it goes wild, like of course it's going to do.
What I did love was so how they had these kind of overhead shots of him. It really emphasized the height and power of him. And then when the humans are looking at him, it's from above looking up. So it really again kind of emphasizes his height and power and grandeur. But then you notice when Denham uses the bombs on him and they've him subdued, he's kind of laid out and the camera's kind of from the side and it's like level. So he's kind of like he's been defeated. Yes. He's down at their level now.
And then when you see him climbing the Empire, he looks tiny.
Yeah.
You know, because now he's reaching his end. And the city, you know, man is you know fighting back and taking the lead in the war, in the battle.
What was nice as well is when they're shooting him from the aircrafts, you see how he delicately still puts her down very gently, you know. And then
I think they did it. That was intentional because it'd be hard for it not to be. But he is the only character in the film that evoked any kind of emotion in me. I mean, I was enthralled by the action. I really, really loved the action in this film. But he was the only character that grabbed me in any way.
He's definitely the star of the film.
Yes, very much so. Will we go on to Godzilla?
We will go on to Godzilla.
Okay, so for me, again, as a slight overview of the film, I feel like there are no real protagonists. I mean, there are characters in this film, and there are characters that are, you know, like the main part of a story for a while, and then they just like drop out for no reason and for ages, and then they'll pop back again.
You really weren't sure who to kind of focus on.
I don't know who we're following or who to care about. Like, Ogata and Emiko at the start are introduced, and then like it's about half an hour later before they even appear again on a ship waving away with the trumpet march.
For me, I will just say Kong is the star of King Kong. For me, Serizawa is the star of Godzilla.
I would almost agree. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, you go make your point. And then
I thought he was, even though like he comes into it like briefly and then he's gone for half an hour. He shows Emiko we don't see it at first, but he says it's a secret. Don't tell anyone. And then we're kind of waiting for ages, like, what is this thing? And you kind of forget about it, and you're like, you're not going to come back to that. And when they do, and you see that the dilemma he now faces.
Mm.
It was like all of a sudden, yeah, he's the character. This guy's. I thought he was a phenomenal character from that standpoint. You see what he's going through and why he doesn't want to do it. When he talks about like weak creatures, and how if he lets this be known, how he could do far worse things. So you see that dilemma that he has, and then I loved how when they have the radio of the character of the schoolgirl singing, and he's listening to that. It was almost like he feels like, am I that answer that they need? Do I have to go this way?
Yeah.
Because he knows if he does, it's the end for him as well. The end for Godzilla, or the end for Godzilla will be the end for him as well. I just thought it was really, really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, like I was leaving him for last because I agree that he is the character of this film. But I remember, like when we reveal what the oxygen destroyer is, and we see his dilemma, and we see what he's going through, and then of course that ending, that sacrifice that he makes and that decision, and even the fact that he's aware that his fiance is cheating on him with his friend. I think because I'm pretty sure they are established as friends, or like they seem pretty friendly when they meet. And so he's making all of this sacrifice for the sake of the people of his country. I'm like, I love that arc, but then I'm like, where the hell was he for 2/3 of the film? Like, why did we need Professor Yamane when we already have a scientist like him who we know down the road is going to have this amazing moral dilemma?
Yeah,
just have him be Yamane. Yamane doesn't need to be in this film.
Because I thought first Yamane was going to be kind of that figure, and I was kind of gravitating towards him initially.
And you feel for Yamane because one thing I wonder is Godzilla. And Godzilla, obviously, as we've said several times already, it's an allegory for the atomic bomb. But I wonder also, because Yamane is kind of an environmentalist, and like he's astounded that everyone wants to kill Godzilla. He wants to study it. So I feel like that's kind of partially, talking about conservation of wildlife, which pretty early in '54 we're talking about this. But like he wants to save Godzilla, and he gets really angry at Agata when Agata suggests, like, look what he's done. We should kill him, and he's like, I can't believe you'd say that. Blah blah blah. He runs off.
Yeah,
But then he just disappears.
Yeah, and initially I was on his side, but when he comes out saying that like we can't kill it.
Yeah, I know.
Like, what are you talking about?
I'm not saying I agree with him,
yeah,
but I'm just saying that I think that what he's saying there is at least interesting in that
it's interesting.
Are referencing to kind of that, because I at first I see what he's talking about. I mean, when we have this, I mean, there are massive animals. I mean, there are great white sharks in the ocean. Should we kill all the great white sharks? You know what I mean? Like, I know it's not the same thing. It's a very much a different scale. But I feel like that's kind of what they're referencing a little bit there.
But even like after Serizawa dies, like he just kind of says, what was it? He says something about like how I wonder with more testing will another emerge.
What he's saying there is that it's a warning. He's saying is if
it didn't seem like that. I feel like he was just lamenting the fact that he was gone.
No, to be honest, I completely didn't take that at all. For me, and it was, and to be honest, I thought it was very too much on the nose, which this film is guilty of as well, of being very on the nose when it's coming to its overt references to. I mean, it's pretty overt when you actually name the bomb over and over again. I mean, again, I understand. Obviously, the bomb impacted their lives. Like everybody in this film remembers the bomb being dropped. So I understand, but it felt a little on the nose at times. But his last line to me very much was a warning that if man continues nuclear testing, because the first one awoke a Godzilla, so he's saying that if there's another test, it'll awake another one and destroy this country and destroy the world. I think that's the point.
Yeah, I didn't read it that way, but maybe that's what the intention was. I just didn't hit home with me that way.
Yeah, okay. Well, to be honest, it didn't hit home with me as much because I felt I'd already gotten that point from what I think are the best characters in this film, the extras. To me, they are the best characters. That woman with her child crying, you mentioned her earlier. That's what impacted me. Those children suffering from radiation poisoning in the hospital. That's what impacted me. That is the character. I'll be honest. I mean, I think this film the characters are weak. I mean, Sorizawa should be a great character, but he's not quite. Like, he has a great dilemma, but he's not in it for most of the film. We only know his dilemma in the last, 15 minutes?
I think that, for me, then I would say that that's a testament to how good he is, that even despite only being in maybe like a quarter of the film, for me personally, I had felt that impact.
Yeah, no,
what he brought to the story.
I felt it. I'm not criticizing the characters so much as I'm criticizing the writers for not having him in more of the film. But the what I felt the most in this film was the people. And the music, I know, played a large part of it as well. But Japan was the character that moved me most.
In saying that, maybe in a way it was good that they didn't focus strictly on one character and they kind of jumped around, because, in war, lots of people are affected by it. It's not just one person. So maybe in a way that kind of worked. I kind of liked it in a way because it was unusual. It's not the norm. The fact that they bounced so much between, like you'd say, there's Emiko, Agata, Serizawa, and
but what do Emiko and Agata really do? What did they add to this film?
Well, see, Agata, to me, initially I thought he was
at the end, sorry, I'm talking over you, sorry, go on.
He, is presented initially as, the hero, but I feel like he was there to bring forward the hero, if that makes sense, in Serizawa.
Yeah.
Which I thought that was cool, because initially you're expecting him to be the hero. And I'm not saying he didn't have moments where he went down into the water with him, risked his life as well, but I thought he kind of brought out what needed to be brought out in Serizawa, convincing him to use the oxygen destroyer. He's supposed to, Agata is kind of, you think it's going to be the hero, but it wasn't that.
Yeah, and again, I think you could definitely have a film where Emiko, Ogata, and Sorizawa have this triangle going through the entire film. But the characters drop out so much and then appear and then drop out and then reappear. I mean, Sorizawa, when he's waving them off from the ship, I was like, wait, did we meet him already? I didn't even know. Like, did we? I'm not sure. He's waving them off and he has sunglasses.
Oh, he does, yes, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, who's he? Why am we supposed to care about him? It just, I felt the film did not flow well for me. It did not introduce characters well. It dropped out characters. Story arcs began and then never finished off. And then amazing story arcs were left to the last few minutes of the film and had great weight to them and really achieved what they were trying to, I think, in a lot of ways. But I mean, think about how much better the film would have been if Ogata and Sorizawa had a really good friendship established throughout the entire film and then hit that sacrifice.
Well, yeah.
Do you not think it would be better?
Maybe. I need to see that film, but just the way it was done, I would agree. Initially, I was like, who's that guy? But as it went on, I liked the way it played out, especially for Serizawa in particular. But I like as well with Ogata, he kind of is obviously he's an honourable guy, but he's flawed as well. We always talk about characters having flaws. He's having an affair with Emiko, she's engaged to Serizawa, so he's got that kind of hanging over him, and then he has to convince Serizawa to, save them, and in doing so has to kill himself. Is the only way it can happen.
Yeah. So
it's like he's bringing this question to him on top of this other thing of taking his woman almost, So I thought that was an interesting kind of dynamic as well.
It is interesting. I feel like there's so little to it. I feel like it's not developed enough. I look at it and I go, oh my God, this film, in moments is amazing. It is truly, truly amazing. And then it's also aggravating because I see the potential of what it could have been, and it annoys me that they didn't develop those characters more. I feel like the weight could have been built up.
Maybe less of Godzilla destroying cities would have.
Yes, I think we both definitely
the way to go with that.
We both definitely agree there
because he had those scenes, like you said, about the girl crying. I agree, that was a really powerful scene. A scene I wasn't expecting to see.
No, you never see the repercussions of violence in these films. Even in modern MCU, and I'm a big Marvel fan, but even in the modern MCU films, you don't see the impact that destroying a city would have on people. I mean, which obviously it would be a life-changing event, and we saw it here, and we felt it here, and they were the best characters to me. But we should mention the man himself.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Miko for a minute.
I mean, didn't we already? Okay.
We're so Gata and Serizawa, which Serizawa.
Okay, I mean, for me, Miko, the main thing about her that that kind of caught me, that interested me, was after two things. One was her the realization on her that she may have been able to stop this if she'd told people about Sorozawa's weapon earlier. That realization that she feels maybe partly culpable for the devastation she's seeing around her. The children, radiated children, telling a child that, oh, your mother will be back, knowing that she's dead.
It's that pressure thing, and I think even with her kind of with the whole
the secret,
all these secrets that she has to keep, it kind of symbolizes the thing of war, of all this pressure and stuff, decisions you make and don't make.
Yes, because it's important to remember as well that in Japan, honor, especially back then, was extremely important, and so breaking your word was an extreme dishonorable act. That's why she's so devastated by doing it. That's why it's such a huge dilemma for her to break.
And it kind of symbolizes like the fragile nature of their relationship, the fact that she's not going to be able to continue with him as well.
Yeah, and she can't break the fact that she wanted to break it off with him. I mean,
but I wondered, like, going forward, I was thinking about, like, because the other way before he dies, he says, like, I wish you and Agatha well. I hope you have a great life. I wonder would she have been able to go on with Agatha after that, just because of the guilt she would have felt.
I did wonder that.
That's what I was wondering, and that's why I thought that whole arc was so. I thought was really.
It is really good, and I thought the three of them, like, it all comes together at the end. I agree with you definitely, and like that scene where the two of them got on together, and when then Agatha realizes what Sorozawa is doing, is a really well acted scene and a really well done scene. I thought all of that worked really well. I just kept thinking, why didn't we see more of them earlier? Why was Professor Yamane in this film? Why was there 10 minutes of Godzilla going on a rampage? When we could have been developing these characters more.
I guess at the time that was the main attraction, was seeing Godzilla,
Yeah, I mean,
which I understand as well, like, but it's not.
I mean, with all due respect to King Kong, this is not King Kong. In that, like, King Kong is about a thrilling action adventure film. This is an analogy for, an atomic bomb.
Yeah, I agree completely. I'm just saying that I think at the time that's what a lot of people would have wanted to see, but there's a lot more to it than that when you look below the surface.
Yeah. Okay, but let's go on to the actual analogy himself, Godzilla. So yeah, again, kind of like Kong, I feel, especially at the very end, he becomes a tragic figure. Because I feel like he's only lashing out in retaliation. I mean, think about it, like, he's living deep underwater somewhere, and an atomic blast has maybe destroyed his home where he lives.
That's what they indicate, that, like, he was.
Yeah, because I always thought. I mean, again, I think it may be in the crap '90s film that informed me of this, but I always thought that he was created by an atomic bomb, in that he was irradiated and mutated into this creature. But in this film, in the original, it's that the atomic bomb just woke him up or destroyed his habitat. So he's lashing out in retaliation. He's getting his revenge.
And what I liked was, like, they go into detail about how he may have come about, and even though it's an implausible situation, it still seems plausible in the context of the film. With King Kong, there's never an explanation about how he came to be or why he's there. And maybe that film didn't need it, but I thought that was probably the most interesting aspect of Godzilla, was they went into effort of explaining about how he probably came about. And that to me was, it was about that, talking about him and what he might be and how he came about, and then the result, the consequences of his actions, was the most interesting part about Godzilla than seeing him on the screen destroying things.
I agree.
Although I will say that you're talking about the feeling sympathy for him when you hear him at the end, when obviously he set off the oxygen destroyer. You can see him shrieking, like, just in agony. Yeah. And there is that moment where you do feel sorrow for him.
Yeah, definitely. Especially as well, like, he's asleep. He's just lying there. I love the fact that the final battle wasn't a battle at all.
Yeah, I guess I indicated earlier.
Yeah. It's a slow, just sad, end, and it's it allowed the weight of Sorozawa's decision to play that much better when he's not like fighting, with a spear or some crap. He's not like this hero going down. He's a man, a genius, but a normal man in strength who's just sacrificing his life to save his people. But yeah, seeing this creature, this animal, he's not evil. He's just an animal. Agonizing in pain, is sad, and I felt for him.
Yeah. No, definitely. There was that kind of a little bit like with King Kong. There was that kind of solemn, kind of bittersweet kind of into it. But I think it's a bit of for Godzilla, but I think more so for Serizawa.
Yes.
And what he's going
through. No, I agree. Yes, Serizawa is the most tragic character in that film. Definitely. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Okay, I think we're ready to vote.
It feels like a natural conclusion.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll go first, maybe, or you go first. I don't know.
You go for it.
Okay, so on characters, this is the one I'll be honest. I felt kind of was the closest, definitely. Like we already discussed it. Music was just absolutely Godzilla, no problem whatsoever. Action was King Kong, no problem whatsoever. This one, I felt both films had flawed characters, but King Kong was the only really character that worked for me in King Kong. While I didn't like some of the decisions they made with the characters in the film, and mostly the lack of use of them, when they were used, Sorozawa in particular, was very powerful. But for me, the most powerful characters in this film are the extras, and they absolutely seal it. So for me, it's Godzilla.
Okay, I thought the way you were building it up, you were going to go with King Kong. The way we were building it. I will also go for Godzilla, but reasons maybe a little different. I think it comes down to Kong, as I said, is the star of King Kong. He's brilliant, but Serizawa is what does it for me. It was between those two, I think. But I think also Serizawa does have the support of Ogata and Emiko as supporting characters. Kong is on his own. The other characters, as I said, Denham is entertaining. Driscoll functions as Zan, but they're nothing to write home about at all as characters. Kong is really works, but Serizawa for me was the real impact. I was like watching him. I was like, this is a great character, and his arc, even though he's limited screen time, it still worked really well. And for that reason, I'm going also with Godzilla for characters.
So Godzilla takes it, and once again we vote the same. We have yet not to vote the same on a round.
Have we voted the same on every round?
Every single round so far. 3 episodes.
It's not fixed, guys.
No. Well, you can hear why we decided Godzilla. We kind of have different reasons. Well, similar, but we
came to a different route to come to the conclusion.
Yeah. But I think I think anybody watching this, well, look, you tell us. Do you agree with us or not? Did we get it wrong? Did we get it right?
Well, if you're watching on or listening on YouTube, put it in the comments. If you would have voted differently in certain categories and what way you would have gone. Same with the previous episodes. The other 2 will be up as well when this comes out.
Yeah, so, every episode is on YouTube and also on every major podcasting service. So follow us, like us, comment, drop us a comment. We'd love to hear if anybody has any thoughts on our choices, our analysis. Did we get something very wrong? Did we pronounce the names terribly? I don't know. Probably. Definitely on that one. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you. So until next week, which is... Next week is The Raid versus...
I can't remember.
Dread.
Oh. I couldn't remember the name of the title. I knew I'd forget that. That was my cue, but
I think by the fact that Liam doesn't even know the film's titles, and I do, which suggests that I am kind of leading the charge on the next week's episode. Although I've never seen Dread, even though I haven't had it on Blu-ray for the last, I don't know, 10 years or something. I don't know how long, but I've never seen it. But I've seen The Raid, and I'm excited to see what Liam thinks of it.
Yeah, because 2 films I've never seen, so I'm looking forward to it. But I think just of the 3 we've done so far, I think this one was the one I was anticipating the most because I had no clue what way it was going to go. In terms of how,
it's fun when you're not sure where it's going to go. But yeah, so until next week, until next Friday, I'm Eamon.
I'm Liam, and we'll leave it there so.
We'll leave it there so.